UFC on Fox this Friday. It's time for Verbal Tap. I have Raf Esparza on the line. Raf, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. It is very nice talking to you, even though I don't respect you as a human being.
Perfectly fair, especially since this is our third try at an intro that the audience doesn't get to hear, and I have screwed it up not once, but twice. We are here now. It's the Sunday evening before a highly anticipated, action-packed fight card that I know we're both excited about. We've already talked about our excitement off the air, and now it's time to talk about it on the air. This is Verbal Tap, the podcast that proves fighting is in fact easier from outside the cage. Raf, are you ready to...
And much less painful, I might like to add.
Especially after our interview with GSP in our first one. He sounded beat up after a fight he won, even.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, it's the wounded warrior, if you would.
The wounded warrior, indeed. Raf and I are two Monday morning cage fighters that love to give old takes on fresh topics and hopefully do it in a humorous way. Both part-time Jiu-Jitsu, MMA trainers, in addition to our day jobs. You ready to get started, Raf?
Yeah, let's get straight to it. We got a lot of news to cover.
We do, and my first question is, why don't they number the fights for UFC on Fox?
Well, I'm sure you're well aware. Numbers are very difficult, and I think once you get past 4, it becomes very difficult to remember what comes next.
Let alone, you know what? It is actually getting kind of hard to remember which UFC we're on. When it's like 154. Wait, shit, when was 152? Wait, can somebody divide by 7 and tell me what UFC fight we're on? So, I agree with that, but do these just get lost in the annals of time? Like, where are they?
Well, I think the other thing that makes it very difficult is not only is it hard to keep track of the numbers, like UFC 154, but then they have these events that are on FX, Fuel, Fox, and at some point, you've seen maybe 26 UFC cards in a year, but that's an interesting take, and I'm glad you agree with me. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my dog joining the podcast live, as only she can, with a little yelp. No, because they used to do those fights in like Afghanistan and Iraq that they don't do quite so much, or at least they haven't done in a while, but the fights for the troops. And those never had numbers. Those were always just sort of part of the weekly vernacular of the UFC. So I guess you're right.
And by the way, when they did do those, it's a great thing that they do them for the troops. But wasn't it very difficult to say that they were raising money?
Yeah, it was.
For, protecting the brain.
Yeah, there were a lot of bold claims with those fights. It's like, yeah, I get what you're doing, and I like it, but it can be profiteering for you, too. Like, I appreciate what you're doing, UFC. You don't have to try and also hide behind an altruistic value.
But let's not forget, these guys are going to beat each other in the brain.
Yeah, but
as we then have more money for research on the said brain. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's move forward.
No, you're right. UFC's a hard thing it's hard to preach on. It's better for you than boxing, but it's still not head conducive. UFC on Fox, I'm stoked because UFC's gotten a ton better with Fox. Fox was horrible at first. They just basically said, okay, we don't want to replace or alter our football scheduling and program at all, so we're going to use the exact same method, the exact same noises, the exact same robots even. The UFC robot was the exact same as the football robot, which I really appreciated.
Do you know the name of the robot from Fox?
What are you talking about?
He has a name. He has a name and a Twitter. His name is Cletus.
Are you serious right now?
I am completely and utterly serious.
Not a joke. His name is Cletus, and he has a Twitter account. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I did not know that. Does he tweet often? How does he feel about being replaced in the UFC fights? I think it was a good move. I don't feel like he knew what he was doing.
I think there's nothing stupider than the Fox robot. And anytime I see him on football, I hate him. And anytime I see him doing kicks and he has an opponent robot, apparently, it reminds me of the movie Robot Jock. Some of you may be too young for this. But it's a movie that was made in the 90s.
Myself included.
That was essentially...
Never heard of that movie.
Yeah, that was essentially Power Rangers without the Zords.
Okay.
It was just robots.
Yeah, well, maybe that was his first break. He was like a child actor at the time, and now he's moved on to Fox. Now, if anyone's wondering, too, because it seems like you and I hate each other, why we do the podcast together, well, I can say I do the podcast with you because no one else knows that information. No one else has the worthless knowledge that the Fox robot had. Which intern's job was that, by the way, to start the fake Twitter account for Cletus?
I think it's all the Twitter. I think it's all the interns coming together. That's all they do.
That would make sense. It gets a nice little Power Ranger vibe to it also. Okay.
Also, worthless knowledge?
Yeah.
Worthless? You now know more than you did 1 minute ago.
True. To all of the fans, including, and I think this is a good time for you and I to thank Dana White for his really, really great comments about a show we did the first Verbal Tap episode. You and I don't always agree with his decisions, but he sent in a beautiful email, and we just want to thank you, Dana, for listening. It's really appreciated. What a supporter you are for the show. So I think that's big.
I've never seen Outlook ever self-censor an email before, but thank you very much, Dana. It's nice to know you feel passionately about what you wrote.
Yeah, we assume all the dollar signs and ampersand symbols were just words of encouragement.
By the time I got to the fourth FU, I realized it was out of admiration.
Yeah, that's clearly what he says to his friends. He uses a different term for love. No, we totally get that. So we just want to thank everybody for that. And now you also are armed with the knowledge that the robot that you see dancing around, his name is Cletus. And I think we're going to end the UFC discussion about Fox on that note and move on to some MMA news. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Sent me an article that I think is fascinating, put off by CagePotato.com, our friendly source for some... they never go too deep in the research, but they always do give you some sort of semblance of what's going on in the UFC.
Here's what I'll say about Cage Potato. They do exactly the amount of research I'm willing to read.
Yeah, they do. They never beat you over the head with statistics, but they definitely give you a nice 5 foot deep version of what's going on. They numbered the top 35, I guess, how deep does it go? The top 40, 50 fighters for earning. Wow, I'm not sure I had seen this whole list.
If you go to the link, it goes all the way down.
Yeah, I must have just read the initial article because we're looking at... This is pretty much every fighter you could possibly name, and several I would challenge that you cannot. We're probably going to stick up in the top 10, top 40, because the top 30 is what we really looked at. It's how much fighters make just with the UFC. Is that we've decided? This only tracks what the fighters made on the purse.
From the limited amount of reading that I've done.
Yeah, which is to say we did not do much research. We just looked at this one article that we both thought was cool.
Thank you, listeners. This is how you know you're getting some good stuff.
Quality MMA work.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is something that they tabulated. Every one of these was reported to the athletic commissions where every UFC or UFC event has been held. And so somebody decided to go down a list and make past, I believe it's UFC 41, the amount of money people are believed to have made. And this is only the stuff that's disclosed to the commission. This is not bonuses. This is not Dana White Christmas cards. This is not bet mitzvah money. This is just the stuff.
So let's start by looking at 1 through 5, because there's a noticeable person in 1 through 5 that it's like, wait, yeah, I can see those 4, but what's he doing here? Number 1 is Chuck Liddell, which I don't think either of us would argue with. That sounds about right.
Not a surprise.
Tito Ortiz, been doing it he was fighting for 97 years, give or take.
Correct. The UFC was born, and then Tito
He was
Ortiz
also married to and impregnating the world's most famous porn star, which I think entitles him to extra...
Impregnating is the best way to put it.
Extra money each fight, right? Like, because of what that's going to bring to the pre-fight buzz. Yeah, I'd pay him more. Quentin Rampage Jackson, who maybe he hasn't been quite so strong now, but there was a time when he was just all you ever wanted out of the UFC. Like, he really helped define the bad boy UFC fighter for a couple of decades, it feels like.
And definitely, speaking of, like, feeding kids.
Yeah. Quentin's got some mouths to feed. There's a reason A-Team was able to bring him in so easily. Number 4 is Michael Bisping. And just to round out the top 5, number 5 is Georges St. Pierre, which I'm actually surprised he's 5th. He would have been my dark horse to be number 1. But I can see him, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, and Quentin Jackson. What the hell is Michael Bisping doing in the top 5 of this list?
You know, I used to think that Michael Bisping's nickname had something to do with a regal kind of thing, but it turns out he just knows how to count money.
There's nothing deeper to his nickname at all. He just really markets the hell out of it. Is this because he's like our first big UK fighter to make it in the US? Like, what the hell is he doing in the top 5?
I have no idea, but props to whoever his agent is, or his manager, or his sports managers. That's impressive.
The people, other fighters saw this list for the first time and were not happy about some of these results. And let's move on to 6 through 10, because again, there is another huge. It's number 6 is Randy Couture, number 7 is Anderson Silva, number 8 is Brock Lesnar, number 9 is Rashad Evans, and number 10 is BJ Penn. Randy Couture, sure, again, fought for 7 million years.
But let's think about it. Randy Couture was fighting before they had coin currency.
Also true. Also true. So, are you saying, does this factor in gold? Doesn't? Does it not?
I mean, I'm pretty sure he might have been fighting for goods or trades or services.
Sure, he might own people.
That's a big question mark. I think asterisk, definitely.
Yeah, no, well, I'm happy to put an asterisk. There is an asterisk next to it, which I think is interesting. Anderson Silva, number 7. So, how, again, I'll say the same thing I'll say about Georges St. Pierre. What is Anderson Silva doing at number 7? That man has fought in more title fights and won them. You'd think by this point, like, we had to, the UFC would have to write him the world's biggest check to get him to fight.
I think they don't translate the contract.
They obviously don't.
His language.
You're saying because he's Portuguese, they might have pulled one over on him.
Oh yeah, they probably just put it in Castilian Spanish as opposed to regular Portuguese.
I hope he's listening and has it translated, because they might owe him some money, and then he can just cut us in on that, and that'll be great. Well, he is number 7. He's the highest paid Portuguese speaker, so maybe that works as much. Number 8 is as shocking to me as anything else. Because, okay, let's say Anderson Silva, fine. He shouldn't be the highest paid fighter in the game. I'm sure Burger King pays him a healthy amount. I hope they do, at least, for the giant logo he has of Burger King on all of his stuff.
Very true. And I think a big part of it is now Whoppers are only 55 cents. So maybe that stock's going down.
You think he has a free Whopper card? He gets Whoppers at all times, just whenever?
If they were to pay him in Whoppers, I think he'd be happy. Although, if you watched one of the primetime specials where he was getting ready for one of his fights, he wanted a Big Mac. So I don't know if that ruined anything.
Slogan burn! I'm always a little... Because, okay, for the same reason I hate seeing LeBron James in a McDonald's commercial. It's like, you did not get to where you are eating Burger King or McDonald's. Like, I can barely stomach the Subway commercials with Michael Phelps chowing down on a cheesesteak. I don't like it when they're backed, but we'll move on.
I would like a quick timeout, just on a tangent.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the LeBron commercial ends with him going to a barbershop is complete BS.
Oh, the other one, yeah. LeBron, you're kind of losing your hair, right? Like, he's, I'm not imagining that.
Yeah, definitely. He's losing his hair. And the worst part about it is, as he goes to the barbershop, he doesn't need a fade.
No.
He just goes to show them something on his phone.
Yeah, he's just...
I'm over.
Whatever he does to blow off some steam, he's got to do it. And that gets us back to number 8, Brock Lesnar on the list. What is...
Yes.
I guess for the exact same reasons, I'm like, Michael Bisping... I guess Brock Lesnar's agent just uses a weapon at all times when he's doing negotiations. So that was how they did it.
I'll give him credit. I think he's got the experience of putting together WWE contracts. So I think there is a similar skill, because you really think about it. There's only a handful of fights he did have in his MMA career.
Like 4, right? Maybe 5. How many is he doing?
No. In my head, I can't remember him breaking the number 10.
Sure.
I'm checking that out right now.
Yeah, we can hear you typing. Okay.
Shut up.
So as Brock Lesnar is number 8, as you, Stein, I can see Rashad Evans being number 9, and BJ Penn certainly seems like a number 10 candidate. At least he's in the top 10.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and then 11 you have Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. Number 12 is Lyoto Machida. Number 13 is Matt Hughes. Number 14, a guy we're going to be talking about, Mauricio Shogun Rua. And number 15, Vanderlei Silva. How many fights? Wait, does Vanderlei Silva get paid like $10 a fight? He made $2,020,000. I guess he had $20,000 in his career, but man, he earned every dollar of that.
I always think Wandy is a person who, as he's about to go out and fight, they have to remind him he needs to get paid for it.
Vanderlei's agent calls him and is like, "What are you doing tonight?" He's like, "Oh, I'm fighting at UFC 121." And his agent's like, "The hell do you mean you're fighting at UFC 121? I haven't booked anything. When did you take the fight?" He's like, 27 minutes ago. I walked in to watch the fight. He said, "Hey, do you want to take one?" So I'm gonna go do it.
I think it starts in a bar. I think he's like about to start a fight there, and somebody like has the common sense to go, no, do it in the octagon, make a little money. And he's like, oh God, I want to fight now though.
I'm so ready. Forrest Griffin at 16, Mirko Krokop at 17, and now we get to him, John Jones at 18. Is there anyone that saw this list and got more angry than John Jones?
I would hope there'd be a few others, but John Jones definitely, if he did look at this, well, they should be able to see their bank account. They should know this.
They don't know how much other fighters are getting paid for fights, and you know they're not doing that math.
If you're John Jones and you're making 1.8 mil off of all of the collective fights you've had, you'd probably be a little disappointed.
I'd be pissed, because he arguably had not even arguably, I'd say he had the best series of title defenses we've ever seen in the UFC.
Yeah.
He really, the way he defended that in the first 5 or 6 fights afterwards was just impressive. And he did it, I swear, every 4 months, which even more impressive. But 18 on this list. Next to Vitor Belfort and Frank Mir.
We do have a verdict on the Brock Lesnar.
How many fights did Brock Lesnar fight?
He fought 8.
8 fights. So we were exactly, you didn't want to say 10, I said 5 or 6. I think I said 4 or 5. Brock Lesnar at 8. Okay, let's do some this or that. Who's left a bigger mark on the fight game, Brock Lesnar or John Jones?
Well, I would, as the MMA purist, say John Jones.
Yeah, I'd say anyone would say I don't think that's going to be all that obscure a question. Okay, Michael Bisping or Dan Henderson, who's number 21 on the list.
That's an unfair fight. Although, I guess it's only more redeemed by the fact that Dan Henderson knocked him out.
And even more redeemed by the fact that I'm just going to start naming some ones I find funny. Nate Diaz at 27, who we're also going to be talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but higher than his brother.
Yeah, probably. I could see that.
I don't even see his brother.
Well, wasn't
his brother's
also
at 55. His brother's made about $500,000 fighting in the UFC.
But his brother's also been in other organizations, right?
Yeah, a few of these guys have. And that's where you have to think like Vanderlei Silva and Dan Henderson are probably, if this list gets bigger, those two probably rise up, because those are some guys that went and fought in other places for a little while.
While we're still on this is why I love Wikipedia.
Yeah.
If you look at Brock Lesnar's fight page, you forget the first fight he had was not in the UFC. And I actually saw that fight live out here in Los Angeles. And it was against Kim Min-soo, who was just a giant. So 7 fights, really, in the UFC. 7
UFC fights, and he's the 8th. He's just behind Anderson Silva.
Yep. Now, the funny part is, if you look at the rest of these, this is even better. His finishing moves in the WWE are referred to as the Brock Lock, a F5, and a Kimura Lock is one of his finishers.
That is ironic, actually, given his complete and utter lack of ground game in the UFC. I think that's fine. I think that's refreshing.
Let's not forget, he did have one win over Shane Carwin via submission.
Yeah, I want to see that fight go again. I don't think it goes quite the same way.
I would hope not.
I think Shane Carwin probably outmuscles him, which is probably why he's gone now. C'est la vie, Brock Lesnar. I'll miss your giant spear tattoo. Terrifies me to my soul.
But I won't miss your super mono.
No, I'm going to miss his after-fight antics. Him and Forrest Griffin are the best to have on any fight card because you've got like an 85% chance something super stupid and unprofessional is going to happen the moment the fight's over. That's why I love Forrest Griffin. It's like, yes, something moronic is going to happen, and I'm ready for it. All right. There's not a ton more to say about this list, but needless to say, we're surprised, and I think we want to see more research. We want to see more results from other people that do more research on how much these guys make with endorsements and things like that.
But what is the biggest takeaway from this? Like, what does this change anything? Does this make us more aware? Does Dana just shoot it down and say you don't know the full deal? Like, what is the takeaway from this list?
I guess I remember saying this to you when they shot it. I think Dana's pretty upset that this gets published, first of all. I bet he did not want this math being done. Second, I think you're going to definitely have some fighters rethinking their contracts, because how are you John Jones and you not just outraged that Brock Lesnar made so much more money than you inside the octagon? Like, who does more for the sport? Yeah. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my main takeaway from all of this is... who's fighting for Wade Shipp? Who is fighting for Tiki Gosen? Who is fighting for Steve Vinegal? I mean, these guys are making $2,000 a fight, and it's really probably just the first couple fights.
Is that the end of the list? Yeah, there it is. I was like, who is he talking about? Tiki Gosen. Yep. Boy, I'm going to put money on him if I can, though.
If I were to give him a nickname, it would be Tiki Gosen Protocol.
You might be czar of nicknames for us. We'll work on that. We'll work that into a future show. There's a quick teaser. Raph's great at naming people. All right, that takes us into a new segment we want to introduce to the show called Questions for Raph. It's where I've designed 5 super innocuous questions that have no bearing on MMA or the sport, but might be fun for amusement, and you're all going to know someone that relates. Raph, are you ready for the rapid-fire 5 questions that we are then going to discuss after each answer?
Here's a question. Before I answer that, how stupid are these questions?
Pretty stupid.
Then yes, I am completely ready.
Okay. Let it be known, Raph, this is all part of the game. Raph did no preparation for these questions and has not heard or seen them beforehand. That's how sure I am of his confidence and how unsure I am in these questions' competency. All right, the first one, pressing. What's more intimidating, pink fight shorts or pink fight hair?
Probably... I would probably say pink hair, because you don't know what else they're capable of.
Pink fight hair is more terrifying because it opens the door.
Well, what else is there? Like, are you... I don't know. The dye may get inside your brain.
Sure. What a sound argument.
Pink fight shorts just say you're just trying to get some attention.
Which would you rather do? I'm going to add a quick addendum to the question. Would you rather do pink fight shorts or pink fight hair?
Definitely pink fight shorts, and I'll tell you why. First off, I have a giant cranium. Thank God you guys who are listening to this cannot see my head, but it is very large.
Thank God.
And bringing more attention to that is an awful idea.
Yeah, you're worried like
now,
planes might try and land on it.
I mean, it's a very massive head. And the worst part is it's flat, so you can actually put things on top of it.
Oh, that's got to be convenient for your girlfriend, though, like for keys and remote controls.
She's... Oh, the remote goes really nicely on my head, by the way.
Good. So
you're
always looking for it.
You can just leave it there. It's also part of the reason why we haven't bought like TV trays.
Yeah. No need. Sounds like a waste of time.
Although I will say, and the pink shorts, could be a nice tribute to WWE's Bret the Hitman Hart. You can say you're battling cancer all the time.
Sure, that's a genius point. Okay, topic settled. Pink fight shorts it is. Plus, you live in LA, so it's warm all the time.
Correct.
All right. One song fighters should never walk out to. What's the one song that they should not walk out to?
My buddies and I have the inverse of this question all the time, which is, what fight song do you walk out to?
Yeah.
And one of my buddies said that they would walk out to It's a Small World. And when we all turned and looked at him, we said, why would you do that? He goes, because people wouldn't want to mess with you. They'd think, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, that nothing screams, I'll kill your family, like if you play Small World. I'll give you that. So you think that's the one song you should never walk out to? Or you're suggesting, like, Nate Diaz should do that this coming Saturday? If Diaz did it, too, I'd be freaked out.
Oh, definitely. I'm kind of into it. I think the hardest one is, you never want to ruin a song. So I almost want to make it a good song that you can't ruin. Like any Eminem song, I don't think you should come out to.
Yeah.
I'm almost tired of them playing Till I Collapse, because that used to be the song I would play to get amped up. And now it's everybody's, and I hate that.
Okay. I think mine would be like something by Celine Dion, like My Heart Will Go On. I don't think I think that's gonna be my early winner. Okay, cutting weight. Everyone hates it. You only have to do it if you're a fighter. But I pose this question: if it improved your sexual performance, would you do it? If the answer is yes, how often?
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
I'm going to get better at sex by cutting weight.
Yeah, just like it's like if that was the event you chose to cut weight for some reason, science was like, hey, it's going to increase your virility this much. You're going to become like a Casanova.
That's a lot of work. Like, it sounds like a great benefit.
Right? It does sound like initially you're like, oh, that sounds great. Then like 10 minutes into the steam room, it's like, oh, I don't know.
I'm a fatty at heart. I eat so much. Like right now, I'm thinking about food. I'm not going to lie to you.
So you're saying like once every 4 months, once every 5 months? Maybe like holidays and special occasions?
Guess.
Okay. I think that's fair.
I get it. That's a tough question. And you know what? I'm going to come back and revisit this question a little bit.
Hey, I ask the tough questions. That's why I get paid the big bucks.
I ask the tough questions. Mm-hmm. I ask innocuous questions that science has not proven right.
Hey. That's why it's called journalism. All right, fourth question. Topic of the Rage Captain. If you're not familiar with the term, it's a position I'm advocating on any coach team where one of the people is just there to incite rage when you need it the most. Fighting is a science, fighting is a sport, fighting is an art, but a certain amount of aggression and rage might carry you over that third round hump that we see so often. Raph, what do you think of the Rage Captain, Boone or Bane?
Ooh, Boone.
Boone.
Rage Captains are amazing.
Yeah.
I like to think of them as a necessary part because they remind you of things you are entirely incapable of. Like, they tell you to reach for goals that aren't even humanly possible. So I would definitely highly suggest people to have more Rage Captains. I'm surprised there aren't more.
I couldn't agree more. I think people would make great Rage Captains. Off the top of my head,
I think I would make a great Rage Captain.
You think you would be a great Rage Captain?
Oh, by far. I'm probably the best Rage Captain not utilized.
Let's say if it's me fighting and you get the chance to, I'm like, Raph, I need you. Okay, well, let's go off this. Like, I always say if this podcast ever, like, if all of a sudden Dana was like, I'm done just being a fan, I'm going to call and I'm going to sponsor these guys. I think I'm moving to Vegas. If he's like, that's part of the deal. You come to Vegas, you shoot this once a day, we talk about 30 minutes, you do big pre-fight events. I'm moving to Vegas and I'm doing MMA full time and just recording a podcast. You hang out in LA with your cushy whatever weather. I bring you in. I think you're like top 5 people I don't want in my corner, and you're saying you'd be a great Rage Captain.
What?
I think you'd lead me into like a double underhook and get me chicken winged on national television, just elbowed in the face, just for your own amusement, so you could take one of those really cool iPhoto pictures through the cage of me bleeding and just put like LOL underneath it. you're saying you'd be great at it.
Yeah, I'd be amazing because I would tell you when you are in a bad situation. I would say, Kevin, that does not look good. I would say, Kevin, please try and cover up your face because, well, nah, give him your face because, what are you really going to lose?
Okay, so you're saying you'd be a realist. Let me tell you, I do appreciate that. The first thing I'd want from a corner man is someone to be like, hey, your face is about to take a beating. You need to make some choices. You need to start thinking about what's important to you as a fighter and as a human being because here's what's happening.
I'd pull you aside very honestly and say, Kevin, let's be real. You've always been ugly. No one's going to miss your face. If you lose a kidney, so what? You got another one.
Right.
Just let them punch straight there the whole time.
And wait for your moment.
Then, pick and choose your moment. You're not good at kicks. Your jiu-jitsu's pretty not great.
Yeah.
So
you're making a
really what you're
case.
hoping for is a miracle. I have this gun in my holster. Would you like to shoot your opponent? Because at least then it's a no contest.
It's a crime, but you're not technically going to lose the fight. Yeah, that sounds
Correct.
great. No, I would just like to publicly apologize and say that, now I definitely want you in my corner. You're going to be strapping literally, you're going to have a 9mm with you on tape. Hey, we haven't defined what Rage Captain means, so your opinion is as good as the next. People, tweet us. Tell us what you would want out of a Rage Captain. We'll talk more about it and Raf's ideas on gun safety, which I think will probably be a prominent part of the next show.
I like the idea this is also going to be used to profile me if I ever commit a crime.
Yeah, it's going to be like, there was that one time between minutes 29 and 31 on that podcast you do that 6 people listen to. You know what we're talking about? That's the one where that's when he said something that was pretty incriminating.
Guys, I think Raf just killed a guy.
I think Raf, I'm not positive, but he might have just done it. If you killed someone, though, you'd miss out on the chance to mock them, which is pretty important to your process. So I think you'd probably save when they were playing like the roast jokes, and it's like, I had all this material ready to mock them. Are you kidding? I would never end their life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to torture them for the next 3 to 6 months.
Well, if movies have taught me anything, it's to shoot them at the kneecaps so that way I have them around longer.
Right.
And then I can monologue and, use all my great witty one-liners as they're dying a slow death.
This is a great point in the show before we move on to why everyone's listening, where we're going to preview the fights coming up, where Raph and I are both going to do a few shout-outs. I'll start the Encyclopedia show on December 4th. If this gets published before that, people should come. It's at the Woolly Mammoth Theater on Tuesday night. You can find me. You can also find me on Twitter at PhillipsKevin1, and I welcome all to please join that. Follow me I call myself a short comment expert. It's more like a short comment enjoyer and occasional tweeter. I will also give a shout out to my MMA studio, BJJ and MMA Academy in Chantilly, Virginia. If you're out in the DC, VA area, come on out. The instruction is top notch. Raph, do you have some things you'd like to promo? You're awfully busy out there in LA.
Oh, man. Yeah, I've got a lot of places I'd like to give shout-outs to. Let's start off with the place I train, Valley Martial Arts Center, VMAC, if you would be so cool. These guys are amazing, great instruction, can't beat the price to train there. Great people, cannot say enough good things about it. That's one of the great things that happens out here. Another place, let's see. Oh, wait, do you like comedy people? If you're in the Burbank area, you should definitely come see the premier late-night show, early late night, with me, your host, Raph Esparza. We are out at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. You can catch us every second Tuesday of the month at 10 p.m. We do all late-night bits. It's very cool. We've got some great guests, Kirill Saltanovich, Dan Carter. We've had a whole bunch of people who are very funny, and it's a good show. Good times.
I've seen it. I've seen the YouTube videos of it post. It actually is pretty funny, especially for a comedy club. It's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. We've definitely we have a great time out there and do a lot of fun nonsense. You can follow us at Early Late Night on Twitter at Early Late Night. That was a tough one to remember. If you so like my nonsense as well, you can find me on Twitter at Legal Latino. That is Legal Latino.
Again, you can also find us, Verbal Tap Podcast. please download us on iTunes. Leave us a star rating, even if it's a bad one. We're big boys. We can take... No, don't... I'm just kidding.
Please
Do
don't.
not do
Oh
it.
my God.
You will crush
Oh my God.
us. Are you joking?
I'm
Does
going
it
to
sound
cry.
like we need negative feedback? Come on, people. Download it. Tell your friends. We enjoy it. Tweet us. We will give you shout-outs, and we're certainly having fun doing it. Raph Esparza, are you ready to make some predictions based on nothing more than nicknames and talk a little bit about the main fights of the evening?
Yes, sir.
Boy, am I excited to lead us off. Facebook fight card. Abel Trujillo versus Tim Means. I guess it's probably Abel. It's A-B-E-L. Abel Trujillo, who has one of the most violent fence tattoos I've ever seen. His nickname is Killa. Versus Tim Means, whose nickname is the Dirty Bird. One look at this guy, and you know why his nickname is the Dirty Bird. Who do you got, Killa or the D-Bird?
I gotta go with Killer. How do you not go with somebody who's named Killer in a fighting sport?
That's fair, and if you look at these two, man, I think you're making the right choice. But I'm going to take Tim Means because I just love Angry Birds, and this guy looks like a character from it, so I'm taking the Dirty Bird.
Just for clarification, what does Tim mean?
I know. It's like Tim Means. I wish his nickname was Life is Precious, and then we'd all be good. Next fight, very serious tattoos on John Albert, whose nickname is. You want to try and guess it?
Is it Prince?
It's nice. It's John Prince Albert. It is Prince
no.
versus Scott Jorgensen, Young Guns. He's Young Guns, which is plural, but I guess maybe he's referring to body parts. So this is probably going to be our ringer of the night for nicknames. Scott Young Guns Jorgensen versus John Prince Albert. I don't even know if they can say that on Fox. I hope they can. If you don't know what a Prince Albert is, stop, Google it, come on back after you're done laughing, because that's a horrible nickname. Who do you got?
They don't have to
Prince
go
Albert?
anywhere. They can literally just do it on their computer. I'm not going for Prince Albert. I'm going for Jorgensen because maybe it's in reference to Young Guns 2 over Young Guns 1.
I'm all in with you. I cannot reward John Prince Albert. Can't do it.
It's too much.
That's where I draw the line. Our third fight, Dennis Silver versus Nam Phan, Battle of the No Nicknames. Super sad.
You know, I really liked Nam Phan the last time I saw him fight. I really dug his style.
Yeah. He looks a little more put together. He's also Dennis Silver looks a little older. These are the 145-pound fights. These fights are always so bad to me. I know
really?
They deserve as much respect as anyone else, but usually like the 135s and the 145s, I don't know. I don't like them as much, but hopefully they prove me wrong. I'm going to take Silver because I like that last name. Dennis Silver. He looks like he's got a little determination behind that rugged exterior.
I'm so glad it's now coming down to you like someone with more moxie.
Yeah. Well, I got to do something with their names. We have Henry Martinez, nickname Sicario. Sicario.
Mm-hmm.
Sicario. Is that Spanish?
Just get past it.
Versus Darren Cruikshank, Detroit Superstar. Well, I'll choose first, and since it's the Detroit Superstar, and that's the only one I understand, let's do that one. Plus, I think Detroit Superstar is a really serious name to have. Like that's a lot of obligation. Anyone from Detroit, they've been through enough. I don't need to pick against them. Who do you got?
I just want to. I'm going to go for Darren, and if only because I keep laughing at his last name. And no disrespect to him because he can beat the crap out of me, but it looks like it reads Crankshank.
Which is awesome. It's such a good last name. Yeah, no, you're okay. We have Joe Proctor versus Ramsey Nihem.
Nicknames here?
No, none.
There's no
7-2 versus 8-1.
People?
Neither of these guys have nicknames. They don't look quite exciting enough to have nicknames just yet.
All right. I'll go with Proctor because that sounds like a lawyer name.
Yeah.
And I don't know. As much as I'd like to see a lawyer get beaten the shit out of, I just have this feeling that Proctor will end up winning.
So here, this is going to take a second, but I was in a fraternity. My pledge father's name was Ben Proctor. Shout out. He is an attorney. First of all, nice stab on the name. He is not a fighter. So I'm going to choose Nehem because the people I know named Proctor are not ready for the UFC.
So wait, you told us that whole story just to make fun of somebody's...
Yup.
Nailed
so
it! Awful.
Okay, Mike Easton, a local favorite here in the DC area, nicknamed the Hulk, versus Rafael Asunceo.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
And the way these pictures are taken, they accidentally zoomed in on Rafael and zoomed out on Mike. So Mike looks like a tiny little person compared to Rafael on the fight card on UFC.com.
Well, I'm not going to shock you here. I'm going to tell you I am definitely going for the guy named Rafael because that's what I do.
Yeah, you're going on racial lines. I'm choosing the local favorite, Mike Easton. Plus, no joke, the guy is mean. Like, he's a mean fighter. He's out of Lloyd Irvin's gym.
Oh, he's a good fighter. I definitely agree with that.
Edwards versus Stevens. Stevens' nickname is Lil Heathen.
There should just be a show of you mispronouncing names.
Yeah, it's entertainment all on its own.
Very much so. Who do you got?
With Yevs Edwards, I like the cut of his jib. He looks pretty mean. Plus, Yez is a good name. Yves. And I can't. Lil Heathen is weird.
You can't get behind that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right now, I would probably go the way of Jeremy Stevens, just for fun.
Jeremy Stevens, just for fun. I will note that. Versus Michael Chisay, who was the I think I'm butchering his last name too.
Oh yeah,
he was our most recent winner of the UFC from the season before this one.
Correct.
So we are a little bit more familiar with him. I don't know if that Marcus's nickname, the Prospect. Michael's nickname, Maverick.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with the Maverick as my nickname choice.
That's a good one. I like the Prospect.
Good. That makes it easier. I think this is gonna be the real start to a pretty great fight card.
Definitely.
Because our next fight, we have another alum, Matt Brown, the Immortal nickname, versus Mike Quick Swick. I always love how they say that, Mike Quick Swick. This is your turn. Who do you like better, just Quick or the Immortal?
Oh, the Immortal, 100%. Not only is Matt Brown a great, exciting fighter, I just feel if you're willing enough to put the Immortal and tattoo it on your body, you've gone the extra mile as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I just crossed his name out and put in Quick because I forgot about how much I disliked that tattoo. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Cooler nickname, except when you tattoo it just below your navel.
Well, yeah, I mean...
That's a tough place to pull off Immortal.
It is pretty funny. I think the idea for him, though, is... when we're talking about branding, I got really pissed at when they kept referring to Mike Swick ending fights with guillotine, so they called it the Swickatine.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely an era of him before he got majorly hurt. So that's just my contribution.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing him return to the octagon. It's been a little while.
Yeah, he was just, I think, at the last Fox event that they had.
It'll be fun to see him.
And he was good there, so it'll be nice to see him back to form. Wish him the best. Just don't want him to beat the Immortal.
Pretty stoked about this next fight. Rory MacDonald, Aries, versus BJ Penn, the Prodigy. BJ Penn says when Rory MacDonald called him fat, it lit a fire underneath him. And now he's more motivated than ever. We should expect to see the best BJ Penn we've ever seen. What do you think? And who do you think's going to win?
I've heard that a few times.
We have... That's what I was saying, actually, to some of the guys I was trading with. It was like, doesn't BJ Penn do this same thing every time? He's like, sorry, I wasn't taking it seriously until like 2 months ago. Now trust me, I'm going to be way better than you remember. And then he comes out and it's like, nope, that's exactly what we remember. That's the same fighter that's not all that aggressive, doesn't really hit people, doesn't knock them out, isn't tapping anybody out, just kind of sits there and gets beat up on.
I mean, BJ Penn is an amazing fighter. I don't know that his best days are ahead of him is the only question.
Fighting at 170.
Yeah, this is the type of thing where I wish I could actually see BJ Penn at the weigh-in, because that's usually what tells me. That tells me how much cardio he's done in the past few months.
Yeah, I'm tend to think I just have to go with Rory MacDonald. I mean, I just feel like he's the more logical choice in this one. I need to see something out of BJ Penn before I'm ready to make that decision. So are we both locking this in?
Yeah.
Are we ready to go 2-0? We both like Rory?
You'll go with Rory.
Okay. I'm a huge BJ Penn fan, too. I mean, I love BJ Penn.
He's great.
I don't know.
It's tough. I don't know. I haven't seen
We really haven't seen anything from him. We just haven't. So this next fight, I'm really stoked about, and this is why I think we're so giddy about this fight card. It's probably the best fight card we've ever seen on Fox, in my opinion. This one's great. We have Alexander Gustafsson, the Mauler, which is a great nickname, versus Mauricio Shogun Rua. Getting a little production value out of these names this time. Now that I know who I'm talking about, I'm not just winging it. Now we're getting a little bit of a production value. We haven't seen Shogun fight great, but we certainly saw him win last time. He fought Phil Davis, right? Yeah. It was a good fight, though. Maybe it wasn't Phil Davis. Brandon Vera.
Well, yeah, he was on the last Fox card, too.
Yeah, it was Brandon Vera. It was a good fight.
Yeah.
It was a very good fight.
It was very good for him, too. As much as I want to say this is going to be the spoiler, I think this is the fight where Alexander Gustafsson really has a chance to surprise people. I'm not confident enough to go with him, though.
Yeah, you're going to go with Shogun?
Yeah.
I tend to think you're right, because my only fear is when these guys get their first big fight against like a legend in the sport, they tend to not handle them so well. Like most of them, John Jones being one of the exceptions, but usually like when you saw GSP fight Hughes the first time, when you see some of these guys fight people they've really idolized, and like Shogun's got to be one of Alexander Gustafsson's, guys he's always watched and been like, man, I really hope I hit that one day. And now he's fighting him. And I don't think Shogun's done. I think Shogun's still pretty mean. I think he doesn't have the skill set to beat Jones, but otherwise we've seen him be pretty dominant at times, and he's hard to knock out. That said, I'm going to take the Mauler.
Okay.
I got a feeling about Gustafsson's kicks connecting with some of the laziness we've seen out of Rua's hands in the last few fights. So I'm going to go with the Mauler because this.
I mean, it is interesting to see some of the fights that Shogun's lost as of recently. The most recent ones, lost Dan Henderson, decision, lost John Jones, TKO, understandable. Lost Lyoto Machida, the big fight over at Staples Center, which I also was there for. Great, it was a controversial fight that he more than redeemed.
Yeah, they should fight again.
And then you have loss Forrest Griffin, which was that weird rear naked choke. It wasn't necessarily a fluke, but it just felt so odd to see him go out to Forrest like that. But those are his most recent losses. I don't know. I don't know that I see that kind of thing. And I say this with our good friends over at Studio MMA, who are all Swedish. I think they'll tell me
huge
differently.
Mauler fans.
Well, I know they're definitely rooting for him, so I may be the lone person over here trying to ruin the party.
The cast out. Well, now I'm rooting for him too. Let's go Mauler. Plus, I'm still a little piffy about Shogun and the not taking the Jones fight, because he was another one of those people in that mix. You remember he had the chance to fight Jones on short notice. I think Jones probably takes that fight.
But he's already fought him.
I mean, yeah, but still. When you're a top contender, you fight, and that's one of the big things we liked about MMA that we weren't getting out of boxing. Yep. Whenever these guys got the chance, they were taking the big fight. That was a big thing for us.
I think that's probably part psychological too. I mean, if you lost a fight, and you get your chance to redeem yourself, and you're not ready, and you want to take it on short notice, I think it's to some extent, just playing devil's advocate, that's a rough avenue to go down.
I agree. I don't think fighting's an easy sport to get into, but that's why I'm suggesting, that maybe they should have stuck to chess.
That's why I'm suggesting maybe somebody else should fight him on short notice.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Yeah. Hey, I get it, but they're fighters. They're going to get paid to take the fight on short notice. We'll see. Right. We'll see. It's an easier decision, again, from outside the cage, right. But you know what I mean, that normally they just take that fight. They just take the fight.
That's what I'm saying. Just take the fight. What's the matter? You don't want to take the fight?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Come on. Take the fight. Let's move to our feature event. In his third title defense, Benson Henderson takes on Nate Diaz. Benson Smooth Henderson, your resident sci-fi geek / fighter / guy that you really don't want to have a beer with because he doesn't drink after the fight. What do you think is going to be the big moment in this fight? Do you think it's going to be early? Do you think it's going to be a submission attempt, or do you think one of them is going to hit the other one pretty hard, and that's going to be a tide changer? What are you looking for in this fight?
I think it's going to be a decision. Yeah.
Really?
I think the last fight I saw, I hate calling him Benson. Benderson, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird...
Yeah. Henderson.
It's, in his last fight with Frankie Edgar, it looked like a very calculated champ. And it's not to say that he wasn't a good fighter leading up to it. I thought he was a real exciting fighter getting up there. But that Frankie Edgar challenge, he was an amazing fighter who gets better every time he loses, by the way. It brought out a side of me that thought he might be very tepid on how he fights Diaz. Now, are Diaz and Frankie Edgar on the same level? It's a good question. But I think that Nate Diaz, for some reason, I think he poses an interesting push to him. But I don't know that I see him getting knocked out or submitted. What do you think?
I'm excited to see what Diaz prepares for on the ground. Because the place we really see Diaz evolve and attack, and I saw some of his fights. I like the UFC videos posting former fights, right? We can see him from the WC. We can see former fights. They showed some great Nate Diaz fights, and one thing he does as a jiu-jitsu practitioner that I appreciate is he kind of evolves and chooses strategies around beating whoever he's going against, not necessarily just the traditional Kimura or traditional escape from armbar, but he picks things that he is really curtailing to go against Henderson. I actually don't think Nate Diaz is going to let this fight go to a decision. Yeah. I think that's the one reason this is a really enchanting matchup. Ooh, enchanting. Sorry. Put that on the highlight reel, tech team that doesn't exist. Benson's... I agree with you. He just didn't ever seem to have any interest in knocking Edgar out. Versus Frankie Edgar looked like he had nothing but interest, which is credit to Henderson for how good he is, because he's clearly good. And I'll say this to go on why it's going to be a great fight. Henderson is a fighter that evolves. Like he picks up, he learns, he sees what you're going to do, he picks a game plan, he sticks to that game plan. He learns one or two really fascinating submission attempts. He's a big mixed martial artist, and and this is going to transition us into what we think is going to happen. I think somewhere in the second round, Henderson's not going to want this fight on the ground anymore and is going to force Diaz into some of those striking situations where Diaz isn't quite so comfortable. And that's where the tide's going to change. I bet in that second round we start to see Henderson realize Henderson can just beat this guy up. So I think we're going to see Henderson choose to do that, impose some of his size, impose some of his will, and just kind of start knocking him down. And I'm predicting we see Henderson's hand raised after a third round knockout.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a very bold prediction. I think it's pretty wise to say I don't really see Ben trying to take this to the ground too much, and I don't think Nate expects that. I think he'd get a great gift if he got it, but I don't think that's what his strategy is coming down to on this.
Yeah, I do think Henderson's in for a rude awakening that might deal with a submission and a choke attempt, because he's made one too many comments about being the title defender even past Anderson Silva, like defending the fight 20 times down the road. Just so much so that it's like you're going to get knocked out in stunning fashion, and this is going to get played again back at you, and not necessarily in a way that you're going to enjoy.
Well, the other thing is, who shows up to this fight? Is it the Nate Diaz that fought Rory MacDonald? Is it the Nate Diaz that fought Jim Miller? You've got different options here, and it's not that he's losing to people who aren't good. It's just
he does lose.
This is a higher caliber kind of fight.
Yeah, and Henderson's he's the real deal. Like, you have to come in with striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu on high levels if you're gonna beat him up, if you're gonna take him. Because he was, man, before the last two fights though, he was so exciting in the ring, in the cage.
Yeah.
He was just always exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this fight card. I think this is going to be a very high action, great mixed martial arts exhibition, especially in those last 4 to 5 fights. I think some of the undercard fights are going to be better than we could have imagined.
I'm hoping so, man. It's a great point for these guys anytime you get exposure on Fox.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Really just go for it. I mean, here the only question is, this is what I always wonder. When you've got a big boxing card on the same night, what are you going for?
I've thought about this before, because what's the advantage? I think you get to just showcase how much more exciting and more action-packed your product is. And that's that's why Fox is interested, right? Because people are interested, and I don't know, I feel like the tide's really turning already. And these fights are great. Like, these fights are just so much more fun.
I think there's an element of, well, if you like that, why don't you sample some of this before and for free? And it just really gets in the back of my head. And the fact that they put this kind of a card together for that night really, it tells me that they're doing the Fox partnership well, and that they are calculating it pretty even. I don't know what the ratings are going to be for it, just because he's still got football going on.
Yeah, but it's
I mean, it's going to be outside of most of any of those kinds of things, but it's still in that weird target area where, like, ratings right now, it's so hard to predict on any of this. But I will say this, in terms of this fight, if this was taking place in the 209, I would have Nate Diaz in a heartbeat winning this fight via gang.
Okay, well, and I'm looking at the Vegas stats, who tend to... I'm sorry, you're saying Henderson by decision? Is that your final...
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay. Benson Henderson's minus 165, so Diaz is plus 135 on the money line, if people are interested. I think that's fair. I think you have to go with Henderson over Diaz, especially when it comes to Vegas standards. Anything else for the listeners, Raph, before we wrap up? We're at our second official episode. We're reaching 60 minutes of action-packed preview, where we challenge concepts that don't matter and concepts that do. Anything else?
Let's plug again for some iTunes. Folks, here's the thing.
Great call.
We know who some of you are who are listening. Shout out Aaron Duncan. We know that you guys have ideas. You have your own opinions. And that's not to say those things don't matter. So give us some notes on iTunes. Let us know individually. Reach out to us on Twitter at VerbalTapCast. Reach out to us on our personal Twitters, Early Late Night, and Phillips Kevin 1, just to let us know what it is that we can do to improve the show. I think we're pretty open to some suggestions, and I think we've got some ideas on how we're gonna evolve it. But a lot of it comes from you guys.
I haven't ruled anything out. I'll kick you off if that's what the listeners want. I'll even take a vacation. That's what. Hey, we listen to the people. That's just what we do.
I like that you take a vacation.
That's my
sweeps.
That's my 2
that
weeks.
We've got up in our court.
This is Verbal Tap. This is Kevin. Thanks for listening.
Good night. Goodbye.